Hello and welcome to another Coffee with Jim. Bit of a news thing this morning. Some interesting stuff has crossed over my desk that I thought I'd just put in a very short vlog. So basically, Tuesday was Gartner's Security and Risk Summit. There's been some excellent information security content that they've commented on. And it's stuff that really we've been saying for a while. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at the notes of what they discussed, which is sort of broken in the market. So, they're kind of outlining a number of things that really need to happen within business in general. Some of it's about InfoSec, obviously. First and foremost, they're talking about the skills gap. They are quoting that 80% of organizations are telling them that they're actually having a hard time finding and hiring security professionals. Now, the skills shortage within the InfoSec game has been going for a little while. That's why we've been doing a series of videos trying to help up-and-coming InfoSec people to understand a little bit more about what it's like in InfoSec, some of the things you need to be aware of, and what to expect when you get into it. We're getting some good feedback from that. Fantastic. Thank you for everybody who sent really nice messages. But yeah, we're very much in a situation where we just do not have enough information security people for the demand that's out there. So it's good if you're in it already. It's good if you're looking to get into it. The opportunities are probably going to be very, very good going forward. So, there's never been a better time to get into InfoSec. As a general rule, it's a hard game to be in for various different reasons. You'll have to look at some of the other videos that I do to kind of understand a little bit more. There's far more content discussing that than I'm capable of doing in this sort of short video. But they kind of mentioned a number of other trends beyond the skills shortage that's quite interesting. And it's stuff that we have actually spoken about a number of times. So one of them is about something called the cybersecurity mesh. Now, basically, there's various different schools of thought on this one, but in essence, what it at its basic level is using kind of security controls, countermeasures, policies, procedures, that kind of thing as very much a baseline of security, coupled up with good cybersecurity tools. There's a million tools out there, half of them run in their own little silos, being run by people in the IT department or being run by security department and so on and so forth. There's a lot of different security tools that organizations will use. They don't necessarily use them all together into one kind of underlying mesh, hence the name cybersecurity mesh. So basically what they're saying is it's time for us to consolidate information security into being run by the information security people, with obviously assistance from the IT people and various other people who need to be involved, legal, whatever it may well be, to make sure that your cybersecurity, your information security, if you're old school, is being catered for correctly in a number of different areas, not just technological and not just Phil in the corner who does one thing and then Dave in New York who does something else. It's all more consolidated to create that kind of mesh and defense in depth that we all seek as information security professionals in an ideal world within our organizations. So it's great to see that that's, from what they've learned from the people they've spoken to, one of the key sort of factors that's worrying people at the moment. The other one that they mentioned is something called identity-first security. So we've discussed a number of times how we've got a very remote workforce now. We've had to do that due to the lockdowns. We were going down that route, before all of that kicked off, but it was very slow. But now the adoption has had to rise due to the situation. And we're looking at a situation where there's going to be potentially quite a few people not going back to the office to work in the traditional way that they work, centralized sort of infrastructure and networking and perimeters and so on and so forth have been pushed out now in a variety of different ways. It's very unlikely a lot of us are going to go back to the way things were previously. We're not out of the woods yet with the pandemic. We don't know how long this is going to go on for. We're in it for the long term. I think we're all aware of that, but to what level or not, we don't know. You know, we've had 2 lockdowns in the UK already. Are we going to have a third? Are we going to have a fourth? Is there going to be new variants coming? Nobody really knows. So basically, as we've said in many different videos, we've got to rethink the way that we do our security. And one of those is validating the identity of the person who's actually trying to connect to the systems and the services that our organizations rely on to operate. There's a lot of good products out there that do that. We've got a number of vendors that we deal with on that score, but really, first and foremost, in the new world of information security, now that we're looking at this paradigm shift, identity and validating identity is going to be a very important aspect of InfoSec going forward, in a way that it wasn't before. I mean, it was important before, but adoption is going to get much greater now. Security support for remote working is another thing that they mentioned. It kind of fits part and parcel with the identity first side of things. As we said, apparently, according to their figures, 64% of employees are able to work remotely, and 30 to 40% will continue to work from home post-COVID-19. I think those figures are pretty accurate. If anything, they might be slightly understated. Not necessarily people permanently working from home, but I think you're going to probably find there's going to be a lot more freedom as to where people work or how often they come into like a central office or branch or whatever the situation is in your organization. 30 to 40 may be permanently based from home now, but I think you're probably going to have another 20 to 30% who are going to be kind of part-time at home, part-time in the office, and you're probably going to see those offices shrink somewhat. Maybe a lot more hot desking is going to be going on. The remote working thing is here to stay, and we need to validate how we're going to handle that. Do we know where our staff are working from? In a very connected world, you can go pretty much anywhere now and get some form of internet connection by pairing up with your phone, going into coffee shops, going into other people's homes, going to wherever you want to go. There's probably some form of internet connection that you can connect into. It's very rare now, unless you go to really remote places where there isn't something available. So we need to look at that, and we need to accept that, and then we need to build security countermeasures that can cater for that aspect. So obviously we've already discussed identity first, and that's something that they mentioned, but endpoint security, secure communications, secure file transfers, all these types of technologies that were important before have become uber important now, super important to really review. And there's a lot of good emerging technologies now that can help cater for that. Again, we've got a number of vendors who relatively new to the game. A lot of them are from serial entrepreneurs who've been in the InfoSec space for a while, just before any of them say anything. But there's a whole plethora of resurgence of technologies to do with encryption and encrypted comms now. Some great solutions out there. Some of them are still kind of in their kind of initial stages. They do work very well, but they've got like a good roadmap of features they want to include in. So watch this space. Start looking at some of those technologies. Remote working isn't going away, guys. So point four on their agenda was really around making sure that there's cyber savvy boards of directors. And this is what they're saying. This is something that they've said. I'm just going to kind of read a little bit ad verbatim. the quick and easy version of it. Directors rated cybersecurity as the second highest source of risk after regulatory compliance in the 2021 Board of Directors survey undertaken by Gartner. Gartner sees that more enterprises are creating board-level dedicated cybersecurity committee helmed by a board member whose background has been in security or as a consultant in that space. 40% of the boards of directors have a dedicated cybersecurity committee overseen by a qualified board member, up from less than 10% today, and that's for 2025. So in 2025, the Gartner are predicting that 40% of the boards of directors out in various different organizations around wherever, the globe, the Western world, however you want to look at it, are going to have dedicated cybersecurity advisories in some form or another. Really, really important. Now, I'm an InfoSec person, so I'm a little bit biased on that one. But when you kind of look at the news that's coming out today about what's going on, it's very clear that cybersecurity, information security, securing our key assets, critical assets, our data, our reputations as organizations is really, really high on the list of things that we need to really, really do. So let's get it done. We need that board of directors. We need representation on there. Gone are the days really where information security or cybersecurity, however you want to term it, there's a million different ways of terming it, sits under the IT department. That's not really the place it should live. You know, put it under legal, put it under finance, put it under anywhere else. But, you know, IT departments, whilst is a very, very important part of cybersecurity and what they do and what we need to secure, isn't the be all and end all. There's a lot of other stuff that goes with it that doesn't necessarily mean that the InfoSec person is going to be able to do if they're sat in the IT department. So I think there's going to be a lot of organizations who are going to be revisiting this and maybe ensuring that the cybersecurity professionals they have are either directly advising the board within their own department or part of the department that's you know, part of their mandate is to manage compliance or manage you know, the legal aspects of what's going on. And obviously finance and legal seems to be, you know, if you don't want to create your own information security directorship, probably the area where it will fit much, much better. It depends on the organization. Different organizations think different things, you know. But from my perspective, either keep them on the, you know, have them as their own department who advise the board, or have some form of seat on the board, or you know, maybe place them somewhere in legal. It's probably the best compliance, legal, compliance, finance, anywhere like that. So yeah, it's important that we make sure that our organizations are secure, and the only way to do that is to be advising the people at the top level, because it's those people who are going to be on the chopping block if everything goes horribly wrong and you have a major event. Just look at the previous issues that have occurred and you will see that. Okay. Security vendor consolidation. Now, this is something definitely that we've been talking about for a while now. There's all kinds of tools out there. There have been cybersecurity tools embedded into people's systems and services and what have you for years and years and years, some of which never get fully configured properly, some of which should just sit there and roll and get renewed, but nobody really monitors them. You know, it's time for us to really sit down and look at our portfolios of cybersecurity products and decide whether something is still fit for purpose, or whether you need to freshen things up by getting some new products that can cater for the world as it is today. We've already talked about the cybersecurity mesh. We've already talked about you know, the governance aspects and the policies and procedures, but we also really need to look objectively at our cybersecurity countermeasures and decide whether or not they're fit for purpose. We need a complete refresh, and it's time for us to do that. Basically, yeah, we need to have a refresh. We need to look at our products objectively and decide whether or not we're going to update them, replace them, get them new. Let's work to a new world where security and cybersecurity can evolve with the business. We've had many, many years of new and interesting business cropping up. We've got some organizations, especially old institutions, that are running ancient kit, ancient software, ancient hardware with ancient cybersecurity countermeasures that were probably good back 10, 15, 20 years ago. But let's face it, they're probably not going to protect you as much as they did back then in today's world. So let's update it. Let's look at it objectively and get it done. Need budget for that. That's going to be something that any of you cybersecurity professionals are probably going to have to negotiate. But we are in a world that has completely changed in the way we work. So use that when you're doing that negotiation. Business owners do understand, but you've got to talk to them in their own language. Privacy enhancing computation. That's a long word, but basically, from what I can see with what they're talking about secure data processing, transfer, that kind of thing. Again, we've already kind of mentioned making sure that information is encrypted. In a remote world, it's even more important to do that. Data security, especially with ransomware being so popular at the moment, encrypting our data at rest. So if somebody does get hold of it, they can't do anything with it, is going to be a real key aspect of our underpinning security baselines going forward. Again, it's something that has been around for a while. People haven't necessarily wanted to adopt it. There's a bit of a fear about encryption, or whether or not if it goes horribly wrong, you're going to lose data or whatever. But I think it's now reached a point where we can't really ignore it anymore. And we're going to have to start looking at some large-scale rollouts of security solutions in the encryption space to protect that data, be it sat on a file storage, be it somewhere in a cloud, be it being transferred from one place to another. It's going to be a really important aspect of what we do. So, have a look at it. There's a number of good products out there that we can deal with. Another point that they make, breach and attack simulation. Again, this has been around for a while, and really what they're saying is we need to change from kind of like an annual pen test to something that's a little bit more regular. Now, I personally always recommend a pen test once or maybe twice a year. I think every InfoSec person does. You've got to know where you stand from a security standpoint. But breach and attack simulation is a little bit more ongoing aspect that's starting to emerge and become quite popular now. It's a good set of solutions, it's a good set of tools. I do advocate it. They can be a little bit expensive, but they really pump up your ability to manage your security baseline. Should you decide to go down that route and get that kind of solution in place, especially if you're in an organization where you're being potentially targeted by ransom groups, supplying solutions or services or have lots of IP. We've all heard the whole hackers have been attacking COVID vaccination companies, building COVID vaccinations and stealing their data. We've all seen, various different ransomware attacks. We've seen all kinds of things for months and months and months now. So we need to be able to cater for that. Machine identities. Again, this kind of part and parcel with the identity of, checking the identity of the individual. We need to now do kind of a little bit more in the way of managing machine identities. So we need to, we've got a lot of kit now that's going to be sat remotely connecting in. We need some way to validate that kit is kit that's associated with our organization and not cloned or whatever. So there's going to be a whole raft of solutions out there for making sure that your machines are who they say they are. It's going to be a big point This is what Gartner have been saying. I do agree with that. And I think something we definitely need to look at going forward. Again, there's a lot of good solutions out there. So on the whole, to conclude, really, really good bit of info and sort of press from Gartner. I've always liked Gartner. I know a few people who work there, some good friends of mine, and they do come up with some pretty good stuff. I know their marketing. I know they obviously want to get paid for what they do, but they do a lot to progress InfoSec and the knowledge of InfoSec with board level people. And it's really good to get some, as I said before, some validation on some of the stuff that we think is important coming from, other people like Gartner. So please feel free to like and comment. Also subscribe should you feel the need to, and press the little bell notification to make sure that you get told when we produce new content. We produce new content on a regular basis. So, keep a lookout. We do news, we do interviews. We've got a number of other initiatives that we're looking at the moment, mainly spotlights on technologies, that kind of thing that might be able to help. In fact, with what we've been talking about today, maybe I'll start with some of these since it's quite a hot topic at the moment. If you want any further information, please feel free to get in touch with us. All the contact details are in the description. And please reach out if you want us to cover anything, if you want us to go into a little bit more in depth into something, or you just want to have a chat. Give us a shout. Always happy to help. No problems at all. So you look after yourselves, guys. Stay cool and speak to you soon. Bye.